Now, there's a couple other changes here you're introducing immediately. I think I'll mention them both together, then I'll play you something. Just bear with me. There's a higher education continuity guarantee you want to extend and abolishing the 50% pass rule. I'll get you to explain that in a minute. But in relation to that, this is what a former Education Minister, Dan Tehan, told us about earlier in the program. He said it would mean students would rack up graded HECS debts. Have a listen.
We want to make sure that universities take students on who can complete courses and give them the support that they need to complete those courses, not give them a free pass when it comes to taking a multitude of students on in any areas. Those students then fail, and then they're allowed to do more courses and fail again and build up a giant HECS debt.
All right, Jason Clare, can you react to that and explain the changes?
Yeah, look, I can understand Dan's position. He introduced that, so he's got to defend what he did. But the real life impact of that's playing out right now at the university in Western Sydney University. We've seen 1,350 kids basically get forced out of university in the last few months, about 13,000 right across the country because the way this rule works. And predominantly, overwhelmingly, these are kids from poorer backgrounds. They're also kids from the regions going to regional universities.
Well, how does it work?
What we should be trying to... Well, the way it works is if you fail more than half of the first 8 units of your course, so more than half of your first year, then you're no longer eligible for Commonwealth funding for that course. So they're effectively forced to quit. Now, what we should be doing is trying to help those young people succeed and pass, not kicking them out of uni, not when we've got a report that says more people have got to go to uni to get the skills we need for the economy of the future, and not when the report says that we need more people from poorer backgrounds in the bush going to uni. So what this report says is get rid of this rule, but at the same time, make sure that universities are using the funding that they're given to help young people to pass the courses. Now, I think you touched on another recommendation about that funding guarantee. That's exactly what that's about. Right. Making sure that universities use that money to provide the academic and learning support for these young people who need a bit of extra help. We know, Andrew, that if you're from a poor background or from the bush, you're less likely to finish your uni degree than other students. About 60% do rather than 70%. So they need a bit of extra support at university to finish the course. Some of that might be because you're not living at home. Some of it might be just because of the things that are happening at home. But universities have got to play a better role here in helping those bright young people finish their degree. And that's what that's about.
Now, you came on the show a while back and said that you thought ever since it became clear the Voice wasn't bipartisan, it would be much tougher to win. And the polls have since proved you right. What did you make of what Jeff Kennett was saying there, separating the question?
Oh, look, I just point you back to what the Prime Minister said. This is something that Indigenous Australians have asked us to do and put it together. If there was a serious consideration by the opposition to break this apart into 2 questions, then you'd think they would have proposed this as an amendment to the bill that went through the Parliament a couple of weeks ago. But there was none. You know, like in all of the conversations that Peter Dutton's had with Anthony Albanese, he hasn't suggested an amendment. In all of the debate that happened in Parliament, where if you wanted to go down this path and break it up, there was no amendment. So I don't know that that's really a serious option that's been proposed.
All right, what's the way to win this and what happens if it fails?
Look, I know it's tougher, but I do have faith. You know, Aussies are the sort of people who don't want to leave their mates behind, who want to look after their fellow Aussie. And there are a group of Australians who are behind at the moment. You know, if you're a young Indigenous person today, you're more likely to die at birth than the rest of us. You're more likely to fall behind at school than the rest of us. You're more likely not to finish school than the rest of us. You're more likely to go to jail than to university. Now think about this, Andrew. The cost of putting someone in the clink for a year is 120 grand. The cost of putting someone through university, the Commonwealth contribution to that, is 11 grand a year. So more than 10 times the amount to put somebody in jail as to put somebody through university. You know, that's what we mean when we talk about if you listen to people, pick their brains, get better ideas, you get a better use of taxpayers' money and better outcomes.